Please join me in welcoming Derek Brett Gallo, who is the Chief Regenerative Alchemist at OE Superfoods. He will be speaking on the topic accelerating entrepreneurship and food innovation across the globe with a specific focus on the Amazon bioeconomy. Please welcome him to the stage.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here. Seems like a really incredible conference as it continues to happen here, and we're going to start out with a little video just to get a feel and see some of the work we're doing in the Amazon, and then I'm going to continue with the presentation. So.
O que nos alegra trabalhar aqui na Ecofazenda Patuanu, na empresa AOI, é as oportunidades de conhecimento que está acontecendo aqui no dia a dia, né? Que regenera a floresta com o plantio de árvores frutíferas, árvores nativas da região, e a somatória com a vinda constante aqui de novos profissionais que trazem esse conhecimento para nós e a gente pode colocar em prática.
Esse trabalho, para mim, tem virado uma missão de vida mesmo. Estamos quase 3 anos trabalhando nesse projeto e a gente acredita que a floresta tem tudo para nos ensinar, tudo para nos alimentar e tudo para servir o planeta se a gente cuidar dela. Isso é a nossa missão.
A aprendizagem social, ela faz diferença na vida das pessoas. A alimentação saudável é um bem que a gente necessita reaprender, repensar no sentido da produção ao meio da floresta. O que me traz aqui é acreditar no potencial da aprendizagem socioambiental e acreditar na educação qualificada, serviços ecossistêmicos, de práticas ecossistêmicas, do valor da floresta de pé.
E nós temos o nosso setor de graviola, de moringa, de patauá. Só esse setor aqui do viveiro vai compreender em torno de 38 mil mudas.
Estamos em um momento incrível, com todas as tecnologias sociais e ambientais à disposição, as tecnologias agroflorestais, para fazer um movimento aqui para Marajó, para depois espalhar isso para a Amazônia inteira. Precisamos de parcerias, precisamos de ajuda, precisamos de unificar todo mundo nesse movimento para nossa saúde e para a saúde do planeta também.
So, well, firstly, it's good to speak in English. I'm not used to this. I live in Brazil for the last 15 years or so. And I'll admit I'm a recovering investment banker. Until I started, I got this mission. I'll just tell briefly. I went to take my brother on a retreat in Peru to do some healing, and ended up receiving this need to change my career, that I was out of alignment. I'd worked with a career coach, this guy Rick Jarrow, and we launched this book, Creating the Work You Love. But ironically, I was still my day job was investment banking. I was doing all the sustainability work on the side as an angel investor until I realized that it wasn't working anymore. And so now I'm honored to be able to work in something that I really feel is my calling. And I think somebody else spoke about that yesterday. When you work with purpose and stuff, it just makes you, you're happy to work on your weekends at night. You just, you come from a different energy. So actually the clicker here, let me see, is it over on the table? I think this is it. Let me, is it, can anybody, let me just see, is this the green button here? Let's see if, can we put the presentation up? Oh, it's up already, sorry. All right, let's see. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. So we are a social social enterprise, and we basically have 4 big causes that we're working to provide solutions for. And for me personally, the number 1 cause is the Amazon rainforest, because this rainforest is so critical to the survival of the planet. The amount of water, oxygen, all of these different species that are there, all these different potential cures we have for plants that can heal the planet, can heal people. So essentially what's going on is you've probably seen in the news, the Amazon, the deforestation rates have increased substantially in the last year or so. They'd started to come down. So we're at a critical point where, and this is the theory of a scientist called Carlos Nobre, what he basically says, if we lose another 5%, the Amazon is going to go into a collapse, and then we lose another 35% or so. So at the end of the day, by 2050, we're left with only 40%. And this is a disaster. It's a vicious cycle, because the more it collapses, the less rain that it produces, which then creates a drier forest, which then is more susceptible to rainfall. So this is this kind of critical moment to not let the Amazon go. Secondly, as you all are aware here, we're living a health crisis. I think COVID showed that, how vulnerable people are, and a lot of that is just because people are not in optimal health. We see health, we actually work with integrative medicine. We see health as something you do proactively. You don't wait till you're sick. So, and a lot of that, of course, it's not only diet, but I would just intuitively say 50% of health has to do with diet, and the other 50% is everything from your friendships, your family, your emotions, your exercise and everything. But we see just Brazil and the U.S. example of this, obesity and diet, as a precursor to diabetes. If you look at the overweight included, I think the U.S. we're up to around like 70% or something. So this is obviously one of perhaps the biggest health issue in the world. It's the number one cause of death is actually cardiovascular disease. Thirdly, many of you also, we all work in the food system. We know that the food system is having a huge impact on the planet. We need to eat every day. We say we're not going to buy any new clothes, we're going to ride our bicycle, but you're going to eat every day, and it's everywhere. It's the packaging, it's the fertilizers, it's the carbon in the transportation, it's the effluents, it's everywhere. So we need to figure out new ways to produce food in a way that's sustainable, and then going beyond sustainable, actually to being regenerative. Actually generating positive impact. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And then if you think about it, you take all that and then we throw away like a third of the food anyway. I spend some time in the U.S. at my mother's house, and I'm astounded by how much food just gets thrown away. It's particularly in the United States, I think the culture is just have this abundance of all these closets full of food and all this stuff, and it's just tremendous impact. So, and then lastly, specifically, and this is an example where we're working on Marajó Island in the Amazon, which is a very forgotten area. They've had booms and busts of the rubber, of the rice, of the last one was a lumber boom with multinationals, American companies, Japanese companies. They all came in, and then the wood kind of ran out, and then the environmental regulations started to be enforced, and all these companies basically went under. So, despite of all this Amazon deforestation, for example, the people are not getting wealthier. This system is not working. It's leaving people behind, and I think that's the same thing we're seeing in the United States. We're seeing all over the world that the system is just it's not healthy. So anyway, with that backdrop of those four problems, we look at the potential of the Amazon in Brazil. This is specifically to the Brazilian bioeconomy, and it's astounding how little Brazil has done, for example, to leverage this Amazon bioeconomy. So you look at things like pineapples. You look like Costa Rica's done an amazing job. The Ivory Coast with cocoa, and all these other examples of palm hearts in Ecuador. And in Brazil, it's it's a huge country, and it's got 0.5% market share of all these Amazonian products. The acai is the one that basically dominates the entire. It's like 83% of the non-wood forest economy. Not wood, it also not including palm oil, which is grown substantially in Brazil in monoculture. So anyway, that's the backdrop of this huge potential. So what we say is, imagine the potential of regenerative nutrition, and our definition of nutrition is beyond the human being; it's of the planet as well. So this word regenerative, you're going to be hearing this in the next decade. You're going to be hearing it more and more. This is like what sustainability was 20 years ago. This is this new movement where we're actually not. It's not about not doing bad. It's actually about healing, about actually having positive impact. We're not reducing the value of sustainability. The companies that aren't sustainable need to become sustainable, and then they need to work to be regenerative, or some of them, not everybody. And it's not to say that it's not to say that our company is fully regenerative and everything. There's one of my teachers in this area, it's called Daniel Wahl, I think it's W-A-H-L, he's a German guy living in Spain. If you want to read about it, he's like the guru for me on regenerative. And what he really talks about is that, some of the things you're doing, today you don't have a solution. There's 8% plastic in our packaging, but there's not another solution. We're looking to replace that with a coating based on vegetable oils, but today we don't have that. That's okay. So it's not about we have to be perfect and everything. It's a process, right? We just have to be looking towards improving over time. So when we talk about our vision, we call ourselves a food for good tech, which is a term I coined. It's basically a food tech plus a social enterprise. And we see this opportunity of leveraging, people need to eat, right? So that's like basically perhaps the strongest force on the planet. And then we have this whole Amazon rainforest full of all these fruits and palms and nuts and seeds and oils and whatnot. So if we could join those two together, then we see an opportunity for food companies of the future that obviously has to be delicious. Number one, nobody's going to eat. I mean, occasionally people do eat stuff that's not very good tasting, but it's not going to earn much market share. So it's got to be delicious. It's got to be nutritious. Increasingly, people are looking. We all know people are looking for healthier foods, and then also about having higher purpose and impact. So we see an opportunity for some companies like many of that are here in this room today that have this vision of actually generating positive impact, and consumers are increasingly valuing that over time. Obviously, they want value and they want price, but also having that is the additional kind of benefit that this new generation, is looking for, to basically to make a difference, right? So we think of food, as a potential, if we could just leverage food for positive impact, then we could be helping the world. So that's what I talk about here, is food as a regenerative service. And so how do we address those four problems that I talked about in the beginning, going back to the first one? So the first one was this Amazon being deforested and being destroyed. So for us, it's all about the bioeconomy. Essentially, we need to value all these different fruits and palms and whatnot. So how do we do that? We have a farm, which is a training center. We're partnering up with local universities. We're partnering up with R&D, the Brazilian government's R&D arm, to create agroforestry systems using all these different fruits. We're working on regulatory aspects to get these fruits legalized. We're renovating factories in partnerships with cooperatives to process these fruits, because if you don't buy them, nobody else is going to buy them, nobody else is going to bring them to market. So there's this whole aspect of nurseries and laboratories to clone all these different plants and to multiply them to get scale. So that's kind of the Amazon bioeconomy. Then secondly, we're producing really healthy sorbets. Initially, as our first line of products are sorbets. We're mixing all these superfoods. There's no sugar added. I'll talk a little bit more about that. So really healthy food that people can actually make people healthier through eating them. Then in the supply chain, I talked about how the problem of the impact of the food system, we're using all these green technologies. So a lot of energy efficiency technologies. I worked with impact investing back in 2002 with clean energy, so it's kind of in my DNA. But we have technologies on the cold chain that can reduce up to like 80% of the electricity consumption. So we were thinking, what if we can use, that means the supermarkets where we go to, or the cold warehouses, we can actually take them. We can introduce these technologies to them, reduce their costs, so we can actually be, as a company, we can actually have a negative carbon footprint, because we're essentially, as I say, like contaminating the supply chain with these technologies. And for these big transportation companies, we're going to be like 0.01% of their volume, but we can reduce their consumption and emissions by maybe 20-30%, depending on what the application is. So everything from like also sustainable packaging as well. We're working on. We're making an investment in a startup that's using the arm of a palm tree, the Burichi palm tree. It has this like styrofoam, essentially this like a styrofoam from the Amazon, this product that we can use for packaging. We can create like like coolers and all these things like this. So there's all these applications for packaging, et cetera. So all these things that can help green the supply chain. And then the social technologies as well. I mean, it's fundamental. As a company, you need to develop your supply chain. So all these different training programs, and some of this can be done with grant. We've developed a program where we're working on a grant of like $1 million to basically train all these cooperatives, all these farmers. We're essentially going to get paid to train them. them, and then they're our suppliers. So I had investors saying to me, "Oh well, who's going to pay for that? You got to focus. You got to focus on your product." It's like people don't really understand. We need to build supply chains. This creates value. When the farmers are aligned with you, then they're going to supply you. They're going to be loyal to you. Some other guy comes along and wants to buy the acai. We want to be buying basically all these different products. So it's really about partnering with the farmers. This is in our DNA from day one. The company the product is sort of it's the motor, but it's not about selling their final product. It's about I said number one was the Amazon rainforest. That's kind of the initial drive. So all these other things are connected. So this is what it looks like if you think about. This is like a Merkaba if you look at it from like the Kabbalah. So anyway, the bioeconomy is in the middle, and at the top we have the eco-farms, the first eco-farm school. It's a model. We have the biofactories that process, and then the farmers and the cooperatives that essentially they are going to supply us to the factories, and then they're also getting trained by the farm. And then we have the green technologies and social technologies that are part of the equation. We have all these partnerships with government entities, with NGOs, with universities. It's really about an ecosystem. We need to. There's all this money. There's all these initiatives. We need to unite them. So that's kind of one of the roles that we're playing. We also have our holding company has an investment in a startup called WeLight, which basically has all these technologies on the philanthropy side. We can create campaigns for donations. We can manage foundation money coming into Brazil. We open up bank accounts for the NGOs. We can also do it for the farmers. We have special accounts for let's say underprivileged poor people that are subsidized. So we have this whole kind of this whole financial services arm to help bring people into the economy. And then we have a brand, and then we're looking at an omni-channel model. We're now in Brazil, and we're going to be expanding to the U.S. hopefully in the next several months. Food and agriculture are linked to the SDGs. We've signed the Global Compact, which is a group of companies that are dedicated to making the SDGs goals happen by 2030. And this food is the single strongest lever to optimize health and the environment. That's from Eat Lancet. I had a chance to meet Dr. Gunhild Stordalen, a Norwegian woman who's working with Lancet out of Boston, doing amazing research. Basically, it's showing us that the diet that could make the planet actually work and people healthy is mainly plant-based, right? So obviously the meats and stuff, they're not going away. But and we don't even believe necessarily in veganism as the solution. We think for some people it makes sense and it works. But we're working with we produce eggs on the farm. We need the manure from the chickens to regenerate. We need to displace. Actually, those eggs are going to displace the eggs from the conventional farming that has all the suffering involved. So we're working with these chickens. I'll talk a little bit more about that. So this is where we are on Marajó Island. So this is up in the north of Brazil. Belém is the capital of the state of Pará. Marajó Island is about 50,000 square kilometers, about the size of Switzerland. It's actually, if you take the lakes out of Switzerland, Marajó is bigger. And here we are so we have three operations. We have the main one is the Eco Farm School, which is in the city of Breves there. And then we have the factory in São Sebastião, and then the other factory that's sort of on hold, that's going to be more focused on the oils and nuts. So I'll talk about those. So here's some pictures from that you saw in the video. But so there's the aerial view on the top left. We have about 400 acres. The nurseries, we're planting all these different fruits and palms. Sometimes we discover new ones. It happens all the time. We start to plant them. We're mobilizing the communities around us, the river people, to bring us the seeds and teaching them how to. So because as I said, this was like the lumber area up until like 2000 and something. But nobody's ever planted. They know how to use wood chainsaws. They're amazing to build and stuff like that. So the wood for building is amazing. But so we're actually, besides all doing the agroforestry, we're planting the fruit stuff. We're planting all these other hardwoods and all these other things. We're incentivizing the locals to do that as well. The agroforestry, this picture on the bottom in the center, kind of the building block is this as I said, it's this regenerative, syntropic model. This guy, Ernst Scotch, is a Swiss guy who's been in Brazil for the last 30 years. He figured out basically how nature works. So in this model, it's amazing. You don't need any external inputs. You plant grasses in between the lines of the trees. Let's say every like 7 meters, maybe between rows of the trees. We plant açaí, cocoa, cupuaçu, all these different fruit trees together. We also plant cassava, corn. We plant beans, all this together, and then we harvest the corn in 90 days, and we harvest the cassava in 180 days, and then the fruit trees are coming, and everything has synergies amongst themselves. All the roots, they all share, the different plants share the different minerals and vitamins. It's incredible, and there's no, as I said, we just cut the grass every 6 weeks. We plant certain trees that are good for producing a lot of organic material. Then we cut the branches, throw that down. We always keep the soil covered and create these little tunnels put wood on each side of the rows of the fruit trees. So it's always wet and decomposing. So the soil actually just keeps getting better and better and better. We also have the chicken manure as well. So that's an added benefit, but it's not necessary. So anyway, that's a bit about the farm. We're working with bringing some new kinds of bamboo that can be food, or they can serve as wood. Because everybody's used to working with wood, if they had a little bamboo patch, they could then have that as a source of wood. Bamboo grows so much faster than wood. So other projects, we have biodigesters on our farm. We have solar. We're developing electric boats and all these different. I have a co-founder, Roberto, is there. He's kind of a MacGyver. I've been working with him from like 2000. He was the guy who basically brought like clean solar-powered drinking water systems to indigenous villages and starting back in like 1997. So he's kind of the guy that does all this operationally, and I'm in São Paulo doing the other aspects. So here's the university. We partnered with this federal university. We've been receiving the students from the federal university. They're like agronomist technicians. So we receive them to do internships, which is great because that's how we get future talent. And then unfortunately because of the pandemic, the program has been postponed. But basically the IFPA, the federal Institute, they're going to be running courses for the farmers, and we're hosting them on our farm. They didn't have a campus to do this, so we provide and for us it's great. It's these are our future suppliers. It's labor. Obviously there's some cost to us, but they're going to be working. They're going to be planting and learning on our farm. So it's sort of a win-win. So it shows that we don't need. This doesn't need to be subsidized. We can just do it. Just the economics of people planting, the economics of the whole rainforest basically can pay for that. The rainforest not being cut down, right? So it's really, in the end of the day, it's about economics, right? That if you position them the right way, that can make sense. So this is the couple factories, the presidents of two of the cooperatives that we're working with. So we're renovating these factories because we're taking abandoned. Basically, what happens is 99% of these projects, they're donations through some foundation. They go through some government organization, and it's really difficult to figure this stuff out, the logistics, the whole thing. So the factories get abandoned. So we basically come in and so our investments are I won't even say the numbers, but they're like ridiculously low for how much it takes to build a factory. So we can do it with much less, much lower costs and stuff, much faster and stuff. And then we already have the cooperative, who's our supplier. So it's great for them because we're not just buying the açaí, we're going to be buying all these other fruits and palms. So we're really going to be generating income for them, pay them some rent on the factory, and then we're also developing these programs. We're partnering now with the FAO, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, to create this vertical integration model. We have lots of other partners as well. This is what it looks like, kind of the whole ecosystem there. So, we have, as I said, all these government entities on the top. This is like the SENAI is like the industrial government organization, small business organization, the technology park that has all these laboratories to study all these oils and properties and antioxidants. We have the cooperatives. We have the other partners, and just on the top left, we're also part of this food tech ecosystem. So right now we're in an acceleration program. It's called TechStart Food Innovation. We were in another acceleration program, Partners from the Amazon, supported by USAID and one of the Brazilian NGOs and some of the big Natura and Coca-Cola. So some of these big guys. The other one, the present one is Nestle. So it's basically we're connecting to this whole food tech ecosystem. We're getting into this whole agri-tech as well. These are kind of buzzwords that help in the valuations of your companies as well. So, but And then some of these other programs, like we have a project for socio-emotional education as well. We really believe that all the stuff we're doing, if we don't go into the schools and teach the kids how to involve their emotions, they're not going to be able to understand sustainability. We're not going to turn them into agroforestry wizards if they're not, if they don't know they don't understand empathy and stuff. So these are things that, these projects that we have this holistic view that we think need to happen. They may not happen, the next 6 months or 3 months, but they will happen. There's resources out there for these kinds of projects. So anyway, as a kind of in getting to a bit of a summary of sort of like what our recipe is for regeneration. So we have partnerships, we have food tech, Amazon bioeconomy, clean tech, regenerative agriculture, blended finance. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this word. Basically, you're mixing different kinds of capital. So there's investment capital from the VCs, from the angel investors, from the impact investors, and there's grant money as well. Then there's development money, there's long-term debt, there's subsidized debt. So all these different entities have similar interests. So if we can put them all together, then we can basically get grant money to pay for the training of the cooperatives, of the farmers, right? So you can plug that into your formula because they want to see that you're investing, you're going to buy the products from them. So that everybody's aligned in these interests. When you put these together, we get much more return for the resources. So anyway, this is a little bit of our sorbets, taking a look at them. These are the first 4 flavors. We're launching 7 colors of the rainbow, 7 chakras. All the fruits are aligned with the chakras and whatnot. Like our acai, for example, has sweet potato, camo, super vitamin C. Also has soursop as well. There's no sugar added. They're relatively low sugar. They're about 8.5% sugar. And this is just like kind of our MVP. We put also some, because it was COVID and whatnot, we put some zinc and selenium and some other A and C and other vitamins to really make sure that people are being taken care of to strengthen their immune system. This is a little bit more details of that flavor. So our DNAs are disruptive nutritional abundance. So anyway, all these different vitamins, et cetera. So anyway, that's what we say. The more you're nourished, the better the river people's lives, and the more the Amazon thrives. Thank you. Okay.
Have you considered adding an animal component to your regenerative system?
Yeah, we have.
I asked that because you talk about cutting the grass. We find that in regenerative agriculture, as soon as you start bringing in an animal component, your soil health and all the factors that go with it increase exponentially.
Absolutely. As I said, I didn't go into detail. I forgot to, but yeah, we actually have almost 6,000 hens on the farm. So we're doing free range chickens. So they're in the chicken coop during the day at night, and then we open up the doors. We plant all these grasses, and now we're going to start to actually letting them go out into the agroforestry. So we have the chicken manure. We think that absolutely. We're doing a little bit of we do some fish in the river there locally. I mean, it's we think the people who live on the farm, people eat meat. They're Amazonian. So we need to find solutions to them, and it's much better that producing our own some of the own fish and other stuff as well. There's some chickens that they eat that we produce on the farm. Then buying these traditional meats and whatnot that have all this environmental impact and animal cruelty probably baked into the production processes. So absolutely, it makes total sense. It's permaculture type of principles.
If I could just make a comment on that issue, if you continue eating off the grass to a certain level, you actually stimulate new growth, and your carbon sequestration improves dramatically. So you're actually building the carbon in the soil at a much higher rate than what you would if you just left it or cut it.
Okay, so right. So the grass is planted specifically between the lines of the agroforest. We cut it every 6 weeks or something because we keep cutting it and we cover that's our fertilizer. So that's why we do it. We have some Mombasa and and I think another species as well. So it's part of this entropic model is to bring the grasses in, as well as the specific trees that produce a lot of biomass. We plant some of the trees, some of the legumes as well that fixate nitrogen in the soil as well. So absolutely agree with you. The chickens the chickens are eating the grass as well, and we're going to be letting them go into and graze on the grass as well.
You'll find that as soon as you start bringing in the animals and the diversity will naturally increase your seed bed of grasses and herbs and forbs that have gone dormant because of the situation that they haven't been able to thrive because of the non-diversity. They will all come back naturally.
Okay, thank you, great.
I just wanted to understand a little more detail on some of the products that are actually coming out that are you're looking to go into the commercial space and the market for those.
Sure. So yeah, so we still have a little bit of a disconnect because the factory's not operating yet, and the farm, it's mostly agroforestry. We're obviously selling, right now the farm is selling mainly the eggs. We're planting also, harvesting cassava and bananas, all this stuff like that. But a lot of the fruit trees are still kind of starting. We just harvested our first cocoa like a couple months ago and stuff. So we once we have the factory, then the factory starts to process all these pulps, which we then use as raw materials for our let's say our consumer product line. But talking about our consumer product line, so initially the sorbets. So we have 3 more flavors to launch of the seven flavors. Then we're going to have, with the factory, we're going to have the fruit pulps. So there we can supply, the 100 grams and then other bigger ones as well. So for juices and smoothies and whatnot, so we'll have the fruit pulps, and then we have some other products as well that we're developing. But the farm will have all these fruits and stuff like that. We'll be using mainly in the pulps as well, but some stuff we'll be selling locally as well. So it's they're sort of separate business units, but we're gradually vertically integrating them over time. I think we have one back there, yeah.
Hi, so it seems to me that Avi is delicious, nutritious, right? But it's not ice cream. So you could possibly eat it every day, like you say, as a breakfast. So is Avi thinking of focusing on children and education of, because children want ice cream, for them to understand that because it has sweet potato in it doesn't mean that is not as delicious as ice cream.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's the idea, is that it's kind of an any. What I say is, don't eat it before you can eat it before you fast, and you can eat it after you fast, right? So yeah, it's the idea is that it's kind of it's because it's relatively low sugar. And it's got all these vitamins and minerals, and as I said, it's going to keep evolving. We see this as like our 1.0 version. So over time, it's going to the idea is that each flavor is going to focus on different different aspects of nutrition and of our diet. So, but absolutely, yeah. So, and we actually we definitely will have some products for children. We have a partnership with we're developing a partnership with an interactive book called Pacha's Pajamas, and basically teaches the kids about all the nature and about biodiversity and all the animals and stuff like that. So these are things that probably will happen over time. We're just need to get to market with our first initial products, and then we can go into niches for various for athletes, for different specific demographics, et cetera, for women, for elderly people, for young people, et cetera. Anyone else? Anyone want to come visit the farm? Okay, well, you're welcome. Okay.